A Brothers Grimm story called The Rich Man and the Poor Man. It begins with God popping down to Middle Earth just to have a wander around and see what everybody's up to. So obviously, because Jacob and Wilhelm were writing these stories during the Napoleonic Wars, the first volume was published 1812, second 1815, the year of Waterloo. Obviously, this is a very Christian time, so they refer to the traveller in the story as simply the Lord. Sounds more to me as if it sounds more like Odin or Zeus to me. But let's tell the story. A traveller was wandering through Middle Earth and saw two houses on opposite sides of the road. One very rich, obviously very wealthy people. One very poor, little more than a hovel, with a little vegetable garden. The traveller knocked at the door of the rich house, asking for shelter for the night, as of course was his due under the rules of hospitality. The rich man looked at the traveller, leaning on his staff, his long, dirty cloak, and said, all our rooms are kind of full. They're all we store herbs and vegetables in our rooms, and we don't have enough food to give you. And closed the door. The traveller crossed the road to the poor people's house, where the husband and wife welcomed him in. They shared their meal with him, the food that they had. And when it came time to go to sleep, they gave the traveller their own bed while they slept on a straw mattress. In the morning, the traveller said, "Let me grant you 3 wishes. You can wish for 3 things which will make your life better." And the husband and wife looked at the traveller and said, "There's very little we need. The only thing we really need is to know that we will always have bread on the table." So the traveller said, "That is easily granted." And he looked around at their little house, and perhaps there's a leak in the roof, or perhaps there are gaps in the walls. "Would you not like a better house?" They sort of looked at each other and kind of nodded. And so by the time the traveller left, their little hovel, cottage, their little house had been replaced with something much more comfortable, with a waterproof roof. And their neighbour was intrigued by this. Where had this house suddenly appeared from? How had they suddenly got a better house? And the husband explained to the rich man, "A traveller knocked at the door, and we invited him in, and he ate with us, and he stayed the night here, and in the morning he granted us wishes, and this is what we wished for." The rich man went back to his wife and told her the story, and she said, "Well, get on your horse and ride after the traveller. Perhaps he will be able to do something similar for us, and we will be able to have wealth and abundance, because we will wish for much more than simply bread on the table every day." So the rich man saddled his horse and rode off after the traveller, and of course after some time he caught him up. And the traveller said, "I will grant you 3 wishes, but it will be better for you not to take them, for they will bring you ill fortune." But the rich man was greedy and said, "I will take them." And he carried on riding, thinking what he would wish for. but the road was uneven, and his horse was trotting along badly, its foot falling in every pothole. And after a while, the man said, "Oh, I wish you'd fall and break your neck." And even as he'd finished saying the words, the horse was laying dead beneath him. He'd been granted his first wish. But the rich man didn't want to leave behind his expensive saddle, so he unbuckled the saddle and lifted it onto his shoulders and walked along the road. As he was walking on the road, and it was a hot day, he found himself saying, "Oh, I wish this saddle was on my wife's back." And even as he finished saying the words, the saddle disappeared. And when the rich man arrived home, he found his wife in the house with the saddle stuck on her back. And she guessed what had happened. And she said to her husband, "You'll have to use our last wish to get this saddle off my back. We could have had a much bigger house and a horse and carriage. We could have had all sorts of things, and you've wasted it all." And the husband could only agree and used his last wish to take the saddle from his wife's back. Sounds a little bit more like an Aesop's fable, doesn't it? And the whole moral sort of thing about be careful what you wish for. Odin and Zeus, of course, do pop down from Asgard, from Olympus, and do have a wander around the earth. Not nowadays, just in the Golden Age. And there is a story. If anyone can give me a reference for this and just write it in the comments below, I'll be very grateful. I think there is a similar story about Zeus where he stays the night with a with a poor couple, and they share with him their meagre meal. And he says, "Well, what can I give you to make your lives better?" And the only thing that they ask for is that when the time comes, when the time comes for them to pass on, they will die at the same moment, so that neither will be left without the other. Does anyone know that story? Anyone? Anyway, lovely. So there you are, the rich man and the poor man. But I suspect that's a very old pre-Christian story myself. Anybody got any thoughts about that? Maybe you'd like to write something in the comments below. And I do hope to see you again soon. Take care.